Have you ever spent 20 minutes EQing the same synth? Or have you ever tweaked a sound until it somehow sounded worse than it did before? Then it's not attention to detail, it's the hidden curse of endless tweaking. And why does this happen? Well, first, you're probably a perfectionist and you want every sound to be perfect. Secondly, you're tunnel visioned and you have too many options to choose from. And at last, it can feel productive when it really isn't. Tweaking knobs keeps you busy, but it's not effective. Small changes in mixing and sound design feel meaningful because tweaking the distortion drive knob 2% more feels scientific and it gives you visual feedback. Tweaking is like procrastinating, and turning knobs feel like progress because something has changed. Producers think pros tweak more. They do, don't get me wrong, but not in the way you think. Pros do tweak more than you, but they tweak faster when absolutely necessary with intent, and they already know what they're listening for. You can think of endless tweaking would be like polishing a car with dents, chipped paint, orange peel, and a ruined clear coat. You're focusing on the details while ignoring the real problem. So go fix the root problem first. Keep in mind that tweaking delays decisions, and decisions are what actually moves you forward. So let me give you a breakdown of 20 minutes EQing synth versus what you can do instead. I'm not actually going to show you me EQing a synth for 20 minutes. But let's say you're tweaking this EQ, you're doing this, blah blah blah. You're doing this, blah blah blah. And it sounds worse now than it did before you even started. Just try changing the sound. Use a different preset. That actually fits in the mix. Or if you cannot decide at this moment what the sound should actually be, then you can just go on to a different section. You can probably work on, the build-up instead of the drop, for example, or the second verse. Or maybe you should move on to the drums, for example. The key point here is if you're EQing the same sound for 20 minutes, the problem is not the EQ. Here's the part that nobody tells you. Be lazy when producing. Good producers are lazy in a smart way, not in a careless way. They fix the bigger problems first. They listen to the track in the big picture, even though it's not perfect yet. They fix the problems that are the most obvious first. And what would that be? Well, think melody, arrangement, core instruments disappearing in the mix, etc. Instead of tweaking a small sound no one will ever hear except a few who knows what to listen for. Fix the biggest problem first, and listen back to your track and ask yourself, what is one small change that would improve your track the most right now? Okay, so here I have one of the verses in one of my tracks, and there are two main problems in here. One is probably super obvious, and one is maybe not so much. I'm gonna play the track back and try to identify the problem that needs to be fixed first. Did you hear it? First of all, one of these tempos here is off key. It is a good sound, but it doesn't fit in the track. So now it does. Now let's listen back again. Have you noticed the second problem? Well, There's a lot of mid-end. There are a lot of low mids here that are overpowering the mix like crazy. So what is a way we can do to fix that? Well, we can play the track back. We can solo the elements. Let's do the main instruments here first. I think it might be coming from one of these. It kind of sounds like the strings or the wobbly chords. Okay, so to make this verse sound better, we probably need to change this sound entirely, or we can just remove it. There's still a lot of low mids here, but we have a vocal on top.
Exhale. Breathe again. Guess it's a habit to hold it in.
That kind of fills the space here a bit. And if we want to, we could probably add a high mid type of sound. So we could probably do a different string sound here that we can boost a little bit more of the high mids. Remove a layer, change a few notes, change the sound or the drum. Whatever. Think like a doctor working at the hospital. If someone is bleeding heavily, you don't keep putting band-aids on. You stop the bleeding at the source. So EQs and small changes feel like fixing the problem, but they're just like band-aids. If it sounds bad in solo, don't immediately fix it. Sometimes bad sounds can sound better in context and gives texture. And also, if you unmute and mute the bad sound when playing back your track and you don't hear a difference, just remove it. So when should you actually tweak then? You tweak after the song works, not to make it work. Tweaking is for something that already works and making it slightly better. So that's kind of what I did here, where I used this synth and I increased the higher mids a little bit. So this sound right here. To make it a little bit more brighter. And if you want to, you can probably tweak this a little bit more. You can maybe add a saturator of some kind. You can probably boost the drive a little bit. Maybe add some more space. You can probably add an OTT. Always works. So this could be like adding texture. You know, having a sound like this. There's actually like 2 layers in the synth. There's this normal like saw type chord-ish thing that sounds very smooth. And then there's this other fast moving sound that sounds kind of bad. It's totally okay to tweak something if you believe you already have a good sound, but want to EQ it or compress it a bit, go ahead. But before touching anything, you should be able to finish this sentence. I want to tweak this because. If it doesn't have a reason, you're probably only guessing. When you have an idea, get it out as fast as possible. No need to polish it while you're in the middle of creating. Once you have your idea roughly out, then you can refine. So endless tweaking is like trying to make a bad decision work instead of polishing a good one. A lot of producers get stuck endlessly tweaking because they misunderstand how improvement actually works. I break that down in this video right here.